Please, God, make me famous. You can do anything you want to me. Just make me famous.
When Matthew Perry died, he left behind not just millions of mourners, but an unclaimed empire, $120 million and a flowing river of wealth. Hollywood's biggest question wasn't just tragic, it was financial. Who would inherit this colossal fortune? On October 28, 2023, the world lost its best friend. It was the farewell of a safe harbor, the farewell of Chandler Bing. But before the grief could cool, a sharp question seeped into the headlines. This wasn't just about money. It was about a self-renewing machine. With estimated $20 million in annual residuals from friends, this was a kingdom at stake. Everyone expected a bloody inheritance war, but the war never started. Because 14 years before his death, Matthew Perry, like a chess master, had prepared a bombshell that would end this battle before it began. The secret was hidden behind the walls of his spectacular real estate portfolio. To understand the empire, you have to start at its peak, his mansion in the sky, a fortress consuming the entire 40th floor of the ultra-exclusive The Century building. He bought it for $20 million, later selling it to Rihanna. From the clouds to the shores of Malibu, his $12 million beach house screamed success and power. But while the world saw a king in his castle, those closest to him saw a prisoner. Behind the stunning views was a deafening silence. These massive spaces weren't a home. They were a golden cage. The man who brought laughter to millions couldn't find joy in his own living room. Desperate for peace, he began to dismantle his kingdom. He sold the symbols of his wealth and in 2020 retreated to a modest $6 million cottage in Pacific Palisades. He thought he was running towards safety. Instead, he was running directly into a trap. The world knew him as the witty Chandler Bing, but that was a mask. Behind it was Matthew Perry, fighting a relentless war against addiction. His $120 million fortune wasn't for luxury, it was a war chest. In his memoir, Perry made a jaw-dropping confession. He had spent an estimated $9 million in his lifetime just trying to get sober. That number represents 15 separate stints in rehab and decades of agony. He was a man with all the resources in the world, yet utterly powerless against the demons that moved into his new home with him. But in this darkness, he had a new mission. When I die, I don't want friends to be the first thing mentioned. I want helping people to be listed first. In a tragic twist, the foundation created to fulfill this dream would become the key to unlocking the dark secrets of his final hours. If you'd like to support the research we do to uncover deep stories like this one, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support means we can continue to bring these untold truths to light. October 28, 2023, seemed disarmingly ordinary. Pickleball in the morning, errands for his assistant. It was the last time anyone saw him alive. Hours later, he was found unresponsive in his jacuzzi. The medical examiner's report stated the cause of death as the acute effects of ketamine. Case closed? Not quite. Buried in the report was a detail that shattered the official narrative. Perry was undergoing ketamine therapy, yes, but his last treatment was a week and a half before his death. Here is the mystery. The half-life of ketamine is only 3 to 4 hours. The drug leaves the system quickly. The report stated with scientific certainty that the lethal levels in his system, comparable to general anesthesia, could not have come from his last therapy session. The fatal dose entered his system that very day, likely taken orally. It didn't come from a doctor. It came from the street. The police ruled it an accident, but Perry had already appointed the one person who could find the truth. Months later, his will emerged. It wasn't a simple list of heirs. It was a masterclass in privacy. Perry used a pour-over will, funneling his assets into a private entity, the Alvy Singer Living Trust. Named after the neurotic protagonist of Annie Hall, it was a nod to the man he was. The trustees were his father, mother, and sister. But there was a fourth name, Rachel Dunn, his ex-girlfriend. They broke up in 2005. He signed this will in 2009. Why leave your empire to an ex you haven't seen in years? The timeline tells a darker story. Their relationship from 2003 to 2005 coincided with the furnace of his addiction. Rachel Dunn wasn't just a girlfriend. She was a frontline witness. She saw the secret meetings, the enablers, the dealers. Her name in the will wasn't a romantic gesture. It was an insurance policy, a fail-safe to ensure that if he died suspiciously, the one person who knew the ugly truth would be at the table. Perry's plan prevented a public inheritance war, but buried deep within the trust was a secret clause. If his death was ever determined to be unnatural, the trustees were legally obligated to launch a private investigation. The autopsy proved unnatural causes. The machine kicked into gear. While the world watched the launch of the Matthew Perry Foundation, a legacy of hope, a secret legacy of justice was being built in the shadows. The trustees hired elite private investigators to do what the police didn't. They subpoenaed records and mapped his inner circle, doctors, assistants, and sober companions. And then they hit gold. Forensic accountants discovered a massive cash withdrawal in the week before his death. Off the books. Untraceable, a ghost transaction. The investigators realized the money was gone, so they went to the scene of the crime to find a message. Perry was a writer. If he knew he was in danger, he would leave a sign. They combed the Pacific Palisades cottage. Nothing. Until they checked the jacuzzi service panel. A small scratch suggested it had been pried open. Inside the machinery, protected in a vacuum-sealed pouch, was a single piece of paper. It wasn't a suicide note. It was an accusation. Marcus, I thought I trusted him. Forgive me. The name belonged to his sober coach, the man paid to be his guardian angel. Armed with the note and the financial records, the team confronted Marcus. He crumbled. He confessed to taking the cash and procuring the lethal, non-prescribed ketamine. The tragic accident was a criminal act of exploitation. Justice was served. The money from the trust had uncovered the truth, just as Perry intended. The story should end there. But in the final confidential report, there was one last detail from Marcus's interrogation. Marcus admitted to buying the drugs, but then he said something that froze the room. Yes, I gave it to him, but I never told him to take a lethal dose. I wasn't even there. That was her. She was on the phone with him right before. She told him it would be a release from the pain. He trusted her more than anyone. When asked who she was, Marcus gave a name. It wasn't a dealer. It was the name of one of the 4 trustees of the Alvy Singer Trust, one of the people Perry had entrusted with his entire legacy. The game wasn't over. A new, more horrifying one had just begun. We thought this case was closed, but Marcus's final confession changed everything. Now I have to ask you, do you think Marcus is telling the truth, or is he just trying to save himself? And if he is telling the truth, who is that mystery woman that Perry trusted more than anyone? Let us know your theories in the comments below. Let's solve these details together. If you want us to keep opening these dark files from behind Hollywood's closed doors, don't forget to hit that like button. And to be there when we open the next file, make sure to subscribe and turn on the bell. The truth is hidden in the shadows. See you in the next video.